The Life of Baruch Spinoza, a story of courage and thought. On a crisp autumn morning in 1632 in the bustling city of Amsterdam, a child was born into a Portuguese Jewish family. His name was Baruch Spinoza, and though his birth went unnoticed by the world at large, he would later become one of the most revolutionary thinkers in Western philosophy. Spinoza's life was marked by intellectual bravery, personal sacrifice, and an unyielding quest for truth. His radical ideas would eventually lead to his excommunication from the Jewish community, but they would also secure his place in the pantheon of great philosophers. Spinoza grew up in a thriving Sephardic Jewish community. His family had fled the Iberian Peninsula to escape persecution, seeking refuge in the relatively tolerant Dutch Republic. From an early age, he showed an exceptional intellect, absorbing Jewish teachings and excelling in studies of the Torah and Talmud. However, his curiosity extended beyond religious texts. He was deeply influenced by the works of René Descartes, and he soon began questioning the traditional religious doctrines he had been taught. By his early 20s, Spinoza had developed philosophical views that were considered heretical by his community. He rejected the notion of a personal anthropomorphic God and instead argued that God and nature were one and the same. This pantheistic belief, along with his criticism of organized religion, led to his excommunication from the Jewish community in 1656. The herem, ban, declared upon him was severe, condemning him to complete social and religious isolation. Cursed be he by day and cursed be he by night. Cursed be he when he lies down and cursed be he when he rises up. Rather than recant his beliefs, Spinoza embraced his exile. He Latinized his name to Benedict de Spinoza and devoted himself to a life of quiet contemplation and intellectual work. He made a humble living as a lens grinder, crafting optical instruments while writing some of the most profound philosophical texts of his time. Spinoza's philosophy, a new vision of God, nature, and ethics. Spinoza's philosophy was groundbreaking and deeply challenging to the prevailing religious and philosophical views of his time. He constructed a systematic and logical worldview centered on a radical reinterpretation of God, freedom, and human nature. God and nature, pantheism, and substance. Monism, one of Spinoza's most controversial ideas, was his conception of God. In his masterwork Ethics, he wrote, "God is the immanent but not the transient cause of all things." Ethics, Part 1, Proposition 18. Unlike traditional theists who saw God as a transcendent personal being separate from the world, Spinoza argued that God and nature are one and the same. This view, known as pantheism, proposed that everything in the universe is a manifestation of a single infinite substance, God or nature, Deus sive natura. This substance is self-causing, eternal, and necessary. This radically changed how one should view reality. If everything is part of the same divine substance, then everything follows from the same logical and deterministic order. There are no miracles, no divine interventions, only the necessary unfolding of nature's laws. Determinism and human freedom, Spinoza's strict determinism, followed naturally from his metaphysical views. He believed that everything, including human actions, follows from the necessity of nature. Free will, in the traditional sense, was an illusion. Instead, he argued, men think themselves free because they are conscious of their volitions and desires, but they are ignorant of the causes by which they are led to wish and desire. Ethics, Part 3, Proposition 2 Scholium. For Spinoza, true freedom did not mean acting without cause, but understanding the causes that determine our actions. The more we understand the laws of nature and our own emotions, the more we can align ourselves with reason, leading to a form of inner liberation. Ethics and the pursuit of happiness. Despite his determinism, Spinoza believed in the importance of ethical living and the pursuit of happiness. He argued that human beings should strive to achieve a state of amor intellectualis Dei, the intellectual love of God. This meant understanding the rational structure of reality and aligning one's desires with the necessity of nature. The highest good is the knowledge of God, and the mind's highest virtue is to understand God. Ethics, Part 4, Proposition 28. Through knowledge and reason, individuals could achieve a state of tranquility and contentment, much like the Stoic ataraxia. Happiness, for Spinoza, was not found in transient pleasures, but in the deep understanding of our place within the grand order of existence. 4. Political and religious philosophy. In Theological Political Treatise, Spinoza made a bold case for religious tolerance and freedom of thought. He argued against the authority of organized religion in political affairs, warning of its potential for tyranny. The greatest secret of monarchic rule is to keep men deceived and to cloak the fear by which they must be held in awe under the name of religion. Theological Political Treatise, Chapter 5. He believed that a just state should allow individuals the freedom to think and express their views without fear of persecution. This made him a forerunner of modern liberal democracy and secularism. Legacy. A philosopher ahead of his time, Baruch. Spinoza's radical ideas alienated him from many of his contemporaries, but history has been kinder to him. His philosophy influenced later thinkers such as Hegel, Nietzsche, and Einstein, who famously remarked, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings." Spinoza lived a humble and simple life, refusing prestigious academic positions to preserve his intellectual independence. He died in 1677 at the age of 44, likely due to lung disease, exacerbated by years of inhaling fine glass dust from his lens grinding. Yet despite his short life, Spinoza's ideas endured. His vision of a universe governed by reason, his call for religious tolerance, and his pursuit of ethical living through knowledge continue to inspire philosophers, scientists, and seekers of wisdom today. Spinoza's philosophy reminds us that the universe is not something apart from us. It is us. To understand nature is to understand ourselves, and in that understanding we find our deepest freedom. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. Ethics, Part 5, Proposition 42.